Okay,
I don't have.
so we have quorum. The only person we're missing from the committee is Mike Woodrow. And so I'll call this meeting to order at 4:06. And we'll start off with, well, we already identified, thank you, Amy, someone who's willing to take minutes.
Amy's the best on it.
So we'll do introductions. I'll start, we'll go around. My name is George Palimpsest. I'm the existing vice chair of this committee. I'm the planning board rep for the committee. And I'm facilitating because we don't have the president here, but I've done it on behalf of the president previously. Pass along to you.
I'm Hannah Rechtschaffen. I am a member at large.
Nancy Hazard, member at large.
John Garrett, City Council Representative.
Marlo?
Marlo Warner, Director of Public Works.
Thank you. Jonah?
Jonah
And then
Keane, member at large.
Marie Francois?
Francoise Hatt, member at large.
Thank you.
Carol Collins, Energy and Sustainability Director for the city.
Amy Kaling, Director of Community and Economic Development and the Planning Department designee.
Excellent. Thank you. And then we'll go on to approval of the December 16th minutes. Is there a motion to approve?
Motion to approve.
You know what comes next?
Second.
Thank you. And any discussion about the minutes? Any?
Oh, I had one edit.
Yes.
I know I don't have them in front of me because I'm over your shoulder.
You can.
Great. Just on number 4,
Yeah.
master update, it says went until, and then there's nothing. So could we just delete went until?
Oh, I see. Okay. Sure. I think, I don't have any
Way to
objection
get
to
in
that.
there.
Without objection, you can do that.
When I
That
read
makes
the
no sense.
minutes, I want to
All
make
right.
it worth my while.
All right, with that minor edit, all in favor of approving these minutes?
Aye.
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 And any abstaining?
I wasn't here.
Abstaining, wasn't present.
Okay, thank you. You voted yes?
I voted.
Okay, very good.
I trust you.
Abstain.
Okay, very good.
Abstentions.
Thank you. So now we're on to, we're ahead of time. We're on to annual reorganization. So this is the election of committee officers. This committee has had a chair, a vice chair, and a clerk. And basically, according to Robert's rules, nominations can happen for someone else or self-nominations. There is no need for a second for a nomination. And if there's a single nomination, we can often just, vote the person by acclamation. And if there are multiple ones, then the nominees could say something if they wanted to, and then we could have further discussion. And then we could vote between the potential candidates. So it is open. We typically start with the more senior, so to speak, position. So are there any nominees for the chair position?
I nominate George because he knows all the rules and regulations.
Thank you. I will in turn nominate Jonah
Call that a punt.
for chair. Yes.
Well, and I'll pass it back because I was actually going to nominate George as well. So I just support that nomination.
Okay. I am honored and flattered. I have been for a while in the position of vice chair and been happy to facilitate the meetings, to free up the chair for kind of keeping an eye on the bigger picture. To be honest, as I said, I just barely squeaked this agenda in under the 48-hour timeline. And I am already chair of the planning board and on the co-op board and the regional co-op board and multiple committees for those. I really don't know if I have the wavelengths. I go by the mantra boxer from Animal Farm. I will work harder, but I don't know if I can quite work if I have enough time for that. I've tried cloning. I've tried going without sleep, and I'm still working on those things. But so I would respectfully decline with appreciation, but I'd be happy to serve as vice chair if those skills would be welcomed by the board.
Whatever keeps you from ending up like Boxer.
Yes, very true. Very true.
Yes.
So I will nominate Jonah as chair.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that from both of you, George, but chairing the task force is definitely taking the bulk of my free time. So I think if I weren't doing that, I'd be happy to consider it, but that's all my free bandwidth is the task force here. So.
All righty. I'll call myself again. I will nominate Hannah to resume the position of chair.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. I would accept if everyone is really good with that, because I feel like last time I was not the best at some things, like getting the agenda out on time, but I do feel, knowing that we're coming up on some reworking of chapters and projects that are very much in my wheelhouse and a very great import to me in my other roles, I can see how it would be valuable to chair. And I will try to do better. Just out.
I will offer that if I end up being vice chair, would be happy to provide additional, as I did some before, but I could even be more active providing those prompts and reminders and stuff like that, just
Okay.
the procedural stuff.
Okay,
So
well then
yeah,
definitely.
I don't want to presume. That's our next.
He might even be willing to facilitate the meeting.
I hope so.
So is
Remember when I
there,
tried to do that? It was so embarrassing.
are there any other nominations for chair? Hearing none, I guess we should say all in favor of Hannah as chair. With a big thank you.
Poor
Okay, nominations for vice chair.
George.
Thank you. Any other nominations for vice chair? Hearing none. I will, as I said, accept that position. All in favor?
Right.
Thank you. It's unanimous. All right. And now clerk. And just a reminder that the clerk position had been kind of divvied up as far as note taking and getting on, managing the Zoom. So that's the possibility of splitting up that a bit. I know can be a daunting task. Any nominations?
I'll nominate Amy.
Second.
No, it's not necessary. That's just on, Amy.
You can do it. I just wanted you to make eye
I've
contact.
been doing all those tasks for a number of months.
I was
So
gonna offer that I would be willing to take the minutes if somebody else wanted to be chair.
Want to be, chair.
I mean, wanted to be,
Clerk.
I'm
Already
sorry, I'm
done.
reading my
Clerk.
minutes, wanted to be clerk, but I'm sure I would be happy to
All
be clerk.
right.
Thank you very much. Are you sure you're going to include that in the?
Nope.
Okay,
And
so.
what are the other,
No,
and what
I
are
understand.
the,
say
what are
again?
the other responsibilities of the clerk besides taking notes? You said taking care of the Zoom or?
Yeah, we don't have, our charter talks about, we can develop our own rules and regulations, and I don't think we ever had it written down explicitly what the clerk does as compared with the chair. As far as, the chair would put together the agenda, but as far as coordinating with, Matt Conway about, getting in the agenda stuff, I'm not sure exactly what else. I know that, Mary, for example, would, when the minutes were approved, would send that to Matt Conway in the mayor's office. So some things like that, coordinating about records, not
So
agenda development, but
who, is it Matt or who's been setting up the meeting,
Matt.
opening Matt's been?
that's who,
Mary was communicating with Matt and Matt would
Okay.
put it on the calendar.
Okay. So we could have two clerks so that there's,
We could, but
it's easier to have it just
If
integrated.
anybody else would like to be clerk, I will happily step aside, but I'm also
You
happy
wanna
to not
nominate
make
someone?
us go through. I want everybody on this call to still talk to me, so. no.
are there any other nominations for clerk? All right, thank you, Amy, for being willing to serve. All in favor of Amy as clerk? It is unanimous, even Amy's voting for that. Okay.
She takes great notes.
Does.
Thank you, everybody. Okay, the next item is the biggie for the meeting. And it is continuation of the SGIC focus 2025. I put that it includes questions of additional chapter updates. I'll throw one other thing in. When Mary had sent me an email about, follow-up with stuff, she had said the story map thing may be something to put on there. And then I read through the minutes and it said that
I know, I apologize.
No, that's okay. It said that the committee, I think, decided to look at that again this time. So
What was the story map? I'm sorry.
that was the thing that Mary had worked on, was the committee decided to discuss at the next
Oh, yes, yes.
full
thank
committee
you.
meeting how this will be used. So I think it can kind of be subsumed into the focus, because that's an aspect of, outreach and stuff, how much, but anyway, I just wanted to note that because I had been remiss not explicitly including it. So, does anyone want to start that important discussion? Our focus for this coming year, please.
I wanted to share a conversation I had after we talked about updating the economic development chapter. I reached out to UMass to their, we should have looked it up. It's an office that some of you probably know the name of, that deals with urban planning. I want to say the acronym is LURP.
Yep.
Mhm.
Thank you. And I said that we were contemplating this, and was this a project? They, like Conway School, have master's students that do projects regionally.
Really good
And
work.
they've done other projects with the city in the past, and they were very excited about the prospect of working with the city. Because they didn't come to us pitching a free project or a cheap project. I think that we would have to go through some sort of bid process. I don't know that we could just offer to them, and they said they would be highly competitive in their pricing, but they can't do it for free. But they would love to partner with us. The person who would be the faculty contact is in Australia until the end of the month. So we just had one email exchange, and I said I would come talk to this committee about it. And if we indeed did decide to move forward with the economic development chapter, and we were interested in learning more about working with UMass, that I would reach back out to him after he came back.
Do you remember his name?
Wayne Fiden.
Oh.
He used to be the director of planning in Northampton.
Yeah,
Ah,
I can't stop.
That's
Wow. that would be exciting.
Do you know what that acronym
Him?
stands for?
Landscape architecture and regional planning.
Yeah,
Thank you.
Thank you.
that's fantastic.
And I know when we were talking about chapters and we talked about economic development, I thought of housing too. It's such a hot issue.
Yes.
But then again, I thought, well, I think the housing chapter was pretty progressive. And there's so much happening with the housing. So I don't know that this needs to be updated, but I think the economic development
Interesting.
would be something to, and I'll call myself again, how did we pay for the Conway? We had to pay something for the Conway School, right? And how did that all happen? And how does that funding get approved? So I can't remember.
It wasn't much, was it?
It was not much, and there was a glitch because
Eric or
the
something?
previous mayor, I believe, made the agreement and then the town wanted to back off from it and then.
Oh.
And then the
I-
PSB step up to the plate. It wasn't a lot of money, but.
I want to say it was
35
$20,000 or
wasn't
$30,000. I don't know the backstory of it because it didn't go through
Yeah.
my department, but
$3,000, right?
no, I feel like it was 20 or
Are you
30.
kidding?
Oh,
Am I kidding?
Yeah, that's a lot.
yeah, I thought
like
it
it
was
was.
3,500, so.
Oh,
you
wow.
know.
Okay.
I thought it was,
Anyway.
I thought it was 12,000 right in the middle, so.
All right.
There we go.
6,500.
Sold.
Yeah.
I think the bigger picture is we would need to find funding. And if that's grant funding, then that would be a delay in us working on it. So I don't know if there's other more readily accessible sources of funding, but.
Is it,
This.
I know we're coming up on budget season and I don't know a lot about the planning department's budget in general, but are there ever funds through the planning department for feasibility studies, different things that we could potentially make a case to the city about this being beneficial and perhaps sort of or is that a crazy question? Carol?
I know we were all asked to level fund our budgets, and I know that it's a lean year,
Yes.
and I don't think that I don't want to speak for it, but I believe that like Eric would only put money in the planning budget if there was already something in the works and not like, it's not usual to put in like a placeholder,
Okay,
but
yeah,
yeah.
that makes sense.
I think there is more of a possibility of maybe FERCog having
Yeah.
some planning money.
Yeah, but then they're gonna
Or-
want to do it.
Well, we would have to do it open.
With them,
I think there's possibilities for other funds. I don't think this municipal budget is the source, but
okay.
You're saying other,
I'm
oh,
sorry.
sorry. No, go ahead.
No, I was just thinking of grant funding through the state because we could,
community compact funding, if that
Yeah.
reopens.
yeah.
Mhm.
One Stop will reopen this week and there is possibility under there, but that is a much longer time frame. So that would put this off for a year. So I think my feeling is that it would be worth having a conversation with UMass. Getting a sense of a cost estimate from them, even though they know that it would have to be a publicly bid project. So that we at least had an idea of the ballpark that we were looking at.
Mhm.
I believe if it's under 25,000,
You just
be
three.
yeah, three
Okay.
quotes
We need three quotes.
instead of going out to bid, which is a
Yeah.
much more involved process.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
Mhm.
And I would think that we could, that seems like a reasonable amount.
Didn't Mary suggested that, well, this would be a FERCog thing, but the DLTA.
Which is FERCog. We just got the announcement for that, so
But that's a possibility, with it, which I believe is free, right? It's you
it
apply for.
is, as far as I'm aware, because we just got it, it's a very long list. Did you look at it too? There's
I
a
have,
number of
not-
things and I know that I kind of gave up because I was always told, not for you. So I think the real focus is to try to do municipal projects.
Okay.
So you're maximizing the benefit and they're small amounts.
Mhm.
It's not,
Not big enough, yeah.
I don't think.
When you mentioned DLT, I had asked Mary, as I was reviewing the minutes, what is that? And, so I just wanted to suggest for the purpose of transparency, we try to avoid only using acronyms when something's obscure, especially if it's.
I actually don't know what it stands for, but I know the acronym.
I think it's direct local technical assistance.
Thank you.
I don't hear.
I love making up acronyms.
That
I don't
sounds-
know if that's it, but I'm gonna say it's close.
It is.
That's right.
District local.
District. Yep.
There we go. So it's good to have both the name and the acronym.
Yeah.
Mhm. Hmm.
Please, John.
So I wasn't here last month, but I'm just curious. So this sounds like an expansion on the revisions from the 2014 master plan to include the economic development chapter. So the other two chapters that were already updated, in December, were they released to the public or are they still kind of in the?
No, they have to go through the planning board.
Okay, so now.
Now, they were sent to me as planning board chair by
They were
Mary,
sent then.
and
Okay.
to me,
Yeah.
and then I'm gonna be disseminating them to the board.
In the February meeting,
Yes,
basically.
yeah.
Okay, that's what I was curious about, because
Or the March, I'm not sure exactly when it'll be.
I remember one of the things
Yeah.
we discussed is just like, if we don't revise this plan, the 10-year update becomes an 11-year or 12-year update. And it would be nice to have the public be able to see the finalized form. So I just was
Right,
curious about.
we talked about after the planning board accepts it, that then it could come back to this committee to
Okay.
talk about
How
how
to
to
show
put
everybody.
it out.
An event.
Sure. I mean, any plans that the city have are usually pretty good, and I love to see them happen. You know, the implementation
Mhm,
piece on this
mhm.
committee, and I saw in the minutes, it was discussed, and that's like a perpetual topic.
Mhm.
But yeah, anything to get the plans to not just collect dust, I'm in favor of.
Mhm.
I like the idea of expanding the economic development chapter too, though. That's wicked important, so.
Yes, sir.
If I may, I feel really strongly that it's worth paying the money to hire expertise, especially with things as complicated and as critical as economic development. I mean, we're in a whole new world in so many ways. And just how things look business wise and how to attract people and it does interface with like everything. So I understand, like, even if the money's not there, I don't think that means we shouldn't lower the bar. And it's not worth doing this kind of work unless it's really going to be top notch, which it will be with Amy at the helm. And that's all.
Yes.
I agree wholeheartedly with that. I think one thing too about the economic development chapter in particular is that it creates an opportunity for us to be a little flashy, I think, about Greenfield doing this work. And one of the things that the GBA is doing early in 2025 is working to reboot a property owner and landlord association that used to apparently be very active. And what?
Is that the LBA? Which I know you hate. I'm sorry, but you already said landlord business.
Maybe,
Okay.
I don't know. It's something that multiple property owners had brought up. And so we just sort of are trying to pick up the threads of it for multiple reasons. But it makes me wonder, as we reboot that kind of group, which just incidentally often tends to have people with more money to support things that benefit them. I'm not trying to, make any judgment in saying that or throw any shade, but I wonder if something like an economic development plan / chapter would be in their interest. And so if we at least get a price quote and we have that going in, and as we're rebooting that group, there may be an opportunity in the next few months to pitch something for private investment, because this chapter would certainly be beneficial to people for whom economic development is a critical part of their livelihood.
So they might help with funding.
Potentially. Potentially, and if it's in the ballpark of like 12 to 15,000 or something like that, or even 20, that landlord group has the potential of ranging from the 10 most interested property owners that I know right now to the 80 that are on the list. And at the end of the day, if that ends up being $500 a person or something like that, I don't know. I just think there's some funding opportunity there that might not exist were this chapter not this chapter in particular. Could be a tough pitch for housing, whereas economic development is kind of aligned with that group's interests. This is an option.
Can I ask it, there's been a lot of support for focusing on the economic development chapter. Is there any alternative idea anyone had of the other 4 chapters?
Somebody mentioned housing.
I did, but I thought it was
Okay,
already kind of covered.
right. And the other ones are energy and
Facilities.
facility.
Public facilities, services and energy, education, transportation.
A test.
Did I say, yeah? Did I say 4? Yeah, I guess, right. So we've done, yeah, go ahead.
Sorry, I was just going to say the education chapter continues to be one for me that is both sort of underutilized, but also, I can't remember who I was talking to the other day, but someone sort of referred to education in Greenfield and the school system in Greenfield as being in its own bubble. And so I'm hesitant to say that let's look at that chapter, in part because I'm concerned that we wouldn't really have the buy-in or access we would need, but I also feel like I have less awareness of the school community and the players and so on because I don't have kids in the system.
Yeah, I remember when we wrote this, that I was like, oh yeah, let's do the education. Then I discovered It's actually only the facilities part of education, has
Ah.
nothing to
Yes.
do
Yeah.
with the content.
Got it, got it. Got it.
This is the. Info,
Yeah.
as far as,
So
Yeah.
Mhm. To follow up with that, is there, I don't know if anyone here is sort of more connected to the schools. I'm sure everyone is probably more connected to the schools than I am. Aside from like a couple recent conversations in passing with the new superintendent, like, is there an opportunity to have more of a conversation with the school community as it pertains to sort of planning in Greenfield, or does that feel like it's totally separate and it's really only the physical plant that is applicable?
There's an education committee,
School committee.
the school committee,
And
they handle that.
they handle that, yeah,
Yep,
that's the.
yep.
Okay.
And there are efforts are already being made. They were here a few months ago.
Oh,
I
yes,
remember.
Yeah,
yes,
state of climate pledge.
yes,
Yes.
yeah,
And so they're trying to wrap their arms around
yeah,
all of that.
all right,
And I do think it's one of those things where it's so critically important, but there can be too many cooks and
yeah.
so.
yeah, it's already
Yeah,
a challenging interface
Yeah,
between the community, council, school. It's
yeah.
it's that fair.
Yeah.
It's a-
Yeah.
Promising noises being made, I will say, about coordinating around the budget, for example, like
Yeah.
our Ways and Means Committee and their Finance Committee are going to be doing more talking earlier, which is good.
Great,
Yeah, no, I'm thrilled, honestly. So Laura has been really pushing on that, which is fabulous.
wonderful.
So it sounds like, unless your other ideas or objections, as far as another chapter to focus on potential revision, that economic development seems to be it.
I'm all in favor. I'm just, you mentioned a couple other chapters like transportation and public facilities.
Mm,
And both of those, when I think about transportation, that's economic development. Like
absolutely.
investing in public transit is one of the best bangs for your buck. So having them kind of separate in housing likewise, right? Like housing is economic development too.
Yeah.
It's a very broad phrase. So what I'm hearing, based on what Hannah was saying, is it's kind of more business relations. Is that what we mean by economic development chapter? Or would some of these other topics be incorporated into it? Like, I guess I'm curious about what the scope is of what we're looking at. Are we thinking about changing the chapter structure, or is it whatever is in that chapter? Do we just update? You know what I mean?
Yes,
Because, they're using.
start fresh,
yeah,
new decade.
That makes
I
sense.
mean, it's hard. Yeah. I mean, it's still gonna be economic development, but
Right,
yeah.
I don't think we need to be tethered to,
so what was there?
Mhm.
but Amy had her hand up.
Well, within the economic development chapter, strategy 6 is ensure downtown is safe, easy to get to, accessible and pedestrian bicycle friendly.
So there you
So
go.
there's some, transportation aspect
I was gonna.
integrated into that.
Over the Main Street redesign.
Yes,
I was gonna say, like the chapters that we just updated, where they overlapped with the Conway Schools areas of expertise. I think transportation, is a perfect one to pick and overlaps with economic development and with LARP's area of
Mhm.
expertise.
Mm,
So it might be worth doing those two chapters the same way that we did two chapters this last time. I don't know.
As separate chapters or folding them into one broader economic development chapter?
mm,
I don't know, and it would be a great conversation, I feel like, to have with UMass to
Yeah, fair.
understand the limits of their students' capacity and what would make sense, and is it easier to update an existing document and work within that format?
Right.
I also think if we're trying to come up with a master plan that will still live as a master plan, it might be helpful to keep it sort of the same.
Yes.
The state dictates those chapters.
Oh, is that
And the
right?
last time
That's helpful.
that we did this, I was so frustrated with that fact.
Right.
And so I'm glad to hear people say, okay, if we focus on the one chapter, I think we can bring in, like George
Yes.
was saying, we can bring in the transportation, but we don't, yeah. So it could be more integrated, yeah.
That would be.
Oh, go ahead.
Is it worth, in however we end up wording the pitch to UMass, is it worth asking for a rewrite of the economic development chapter and review of housing and transportation as they pertain to that chapter, just so that we kind of put it out there that we know those connect, and while we're perhaps not looking for a full rewrite of those chapters at this time, we do want that to sort of be taken into consideration, just so we get fresh eyes on it, or does that make the scope too unruly?
I'm wondering about if it makes the scope too big,
Yeah.
as we're trying to think.
Okay,
How much will it cost and how will we pay for it? And I think, you know, there's so much overlap
yeah,
amongst these chapters. Like transportation is identified in multiple chapters besides
yeah.
transportation. As you know, Nancy, when I
There's energy.
wrote a letter about, but yeah, and when I wrote a letter about trees, I was able to quote from all 7 chapters. You know, so everything is, you know, a
Yeah.
lot of things are reference project, which it should be as a holistic, you know,
It's true.
but I think there's reasons to keep transportation separate because it's not all about economic development, so.
Yeah.
But it certainly helps.
Mhm.
Any more about the chapter? We written, yeah.
So one thing I just want to address, which it hasn't been brought up, but maybe it was in an earlier meeting, but there was a study. What the heck is it called? It's like the plan for a net zero
Hmm.
municipality or
The one
community
you
or
did
something.
with FERCog.
Yeah, yeah, with FERCog.
Yeah.
So that's online and that's what I consider kind of like that can be used as our decarbonization plan for the state
Right.
to become a climate leader. Everything is an acronym, George. I'm sorry.
As long as we
Climate
spell it
leader
out.
community. Yeah, there we go. But, so I just want to address that it's not like, it's, in my mind, it's not being brought up for that reason, that we already kind of have that. And there's been a lot of progress, but I will say that, and maybe it's a little bit of a stretch, but I don't think it really is. That economic development, again, we're looking at everything through sustainability.
Mhm.
And economic development, in my mind, has typically been like kind of the furthest from sustainability in many ways. So I really think, again, with tying it in with transportation, it comes back to me of like livability and kind of creating a community. You know, all these things come into play and work when all the ingredients are there that make people's lives better and meet their needs. And that's this whole thing. Again, I was trying to remember what it means. I think it's Metro Boston Transportation Authority, but there's this whole thing in the eastern part of the state where communities near train T stops and bus stops are,
POD.
well, it's MBTA communities is the term they use, but it's all about
The hubs.
designing, yeah, basically like they want all the communities to be around these public transport locales because it makes such a better quality of life and it's less expensive and more sustainable. And so we're in a unique position being very rural, but still can use those same. So in short, I guess what I'm just saying is I think it's, in my mind, again, it's just like all integrated, but that's part of what we're looking at.
Yes.
Carol, you're reminding me.
Of something else I need to do?
No. You're reminding me of the 2007 Greenfield energy audit.
I don't think I need to remind you of that, Nancy.
No, but I haven't talked about it forever, but the whole point and the whole pitch of that was if you do the energy stuff, how much money
Yeah.
will stay in Greenfield.
Yeah.
So I'm just, thank you for opening the door to let me say that again after how many years? Almost 20. Thank you.
Can I wrap that up with a bow? A little bit of a bow, because I'm working on a press release right
That's
now.
on.
We have the Greenfield Light and Power, which is living that ideal where we provide 100% green electricity and there's an option to make it all local from New England renewable resources. So that wasn't possible when, oh, it was barely possible. It was 2015 when we launched. And now there's over 200 communities that do
It's
that.
amazing.
Yeah.
It's amazing. Yep.
So in real life.
It sounds like we've talked about trying to focus on the economic development chapter, review and update. We've also talked about the when the other two chapters work through the planning board mill, that this committee take on some of the public engagement around that. Other big picture ideas for this coming year? Yes, please.
Would a project like this fall at all under CPA?
Housing, historic preservation.
Funds.
Space.
Under, what did you say?
CPA funds?
Oh, CPA.
They'll be here in like 45 minutes.
I don't know. I keep trying to think.
To fund what?
Yeah, I think that,
The
The
master-
economic development study. Or update of the chapter. It impacts every
Yeah,
other
it's an
thing that they
interesting idea.
fund, and I just wonder if there's a way to like get on in there for that purpose. Maybe not at all, but it
I think it's a
just
great
the
idea.
way that things fit together.
Yeah.
You were saying there's three.
Yeah, it's housing, historic preservation, open space. And I don't think economic development, I mean, community development block grant, maybe more.
Hmm.
No. Okay, you know.
Wishful thinking, no.
Yeah, I
It
always.
wouldn't fall under that anyway. Interesting.
It would be a big stretch and that's not the state's forte.
Yeah.
Big stretch.
Yeah, okay.
Great brainstorming. Where's the money?
Never enough.
Always looking for the
We're
money.
gonna find it.
Yep,
I feel confident.
yeah.
And we're gonna find it
I feel the
before
same.
a full
So do I have,
12 months are gone by.
do I need permission to reach back out to UMass and talk to them again? And ask for a price?
I think as long as you have the endorsement of this, we
Yeah.
don't necessarily need a motion, I don't think, do we? Just as long as no one's objecting and.
Yeah.
I'm not
and we're not
committing us to
committing.
anything, I
Exactly.
I'll
just.
give you a thumbs up. Okay,
Okay.
a couple more thumbs
Yes,
up.
definitely.
Is there anybody,
Great.
everybody in support of that? I see, and,
I love it.
okay, very good.
can I,
And Marlo's coming back to give the thumb.
oh,
Thank you.
Marlo, that's- I have a question for Marlo, if I may.
Please.
So again, bringing up, the Main Street redesign fits very closely also with this. So is there any money in there to maybe fund this? Or I guess it could be used as a
Mhm.
vehicle.
Open it.
Haha, yeah, I know.
And Marley, you didn't say no in one
No,
second.
not really. We're stretched thin with the engineering design as it is, and
Right,
the
Right.
project has increased to such a cost after the two public hearings or meetings.
Yeah.
And putting all the ideas together that, we're probably gonna be looking for additional funding, to help out on the construction side eventually.
Mm.
Because it's increased to the point where it's like 2 years of funding of the TPO or TIP. So, and there's many other projects out there from other communities. So that's the short story at this point. So.
I think I noticed, Marlo, when Carol said that phrase, Main Street redesign, I think I saw you sigh. Thinking, totally appreciate what a huge project this is. Wow.
Not really. We just got hung up on the 25% design, but it's moving again. So.
Nice, nice.
Right.
Any other broad ideas for the year to come? There was please, John.
Well, just two thoughts. One, just wondering about the Main Street redesign timing. I think I'd said previously, whenever we talked about this a while ago, a couple of years ago, that it'd be great for this group to provide input on that. And so I don't know what's the current timing of that project.
Currently FY, well, 28 or 29.
Yeah.
Because
Okay.
it's increased in such a high cost that it's been pushed out. We still got quite a ways to go on engineering and design once we get through the approved 25% by Mass DOT and Federal Highway Administration. So, like I said, it's been pushed out. We've already done the 2 public hearings under our engineering and design contract, but Mass DOT at some point will be having a public hearing. It'll be probably at the John Zahn for input and comment further on. Once we get beyond 25% design, it doesn't change much after that public hearing with them. So not sure when that's going to be yet, potentially in the fall, this coming fall or a little later, maybe in the winter. So
Yeah, I can see that making sense for us to provide input at, if that's the best location. Looking at this project from the master plan lens of looking at the various chapters and how it impacts that. So I think that could be something good for us to spend a little time on this year of how we might provide some input on it.
Absolutely.
Yes.
And then the other thing I was going to say is just last time when we were talking a bit about this, Hannah had suggested, well, I'm just looking at the notes to refresh my memory. It says I agreed with it. So I agree with, I just want to say that I still agree with it. Just can't quite word it, but I think it was like thinking about our connection with the city in general. We have 3 city department heads here, but we're not connected with all the departments, and thinking about how, like, just having check-ins with different departments and seeing how they're looking at the master plan.
Yeah.
I was gonna say, I know we've had, on the one hand, reaching out to the public to engage the public around things, and also had guests here at the meetings. We've had various guests.
Yeah.
Which is helpful to, establish connections and learn.
I was going to advocate to bring our guest speaker thing back. It was very helpful. Mhm. So
Are there ideas about who those people might be, since we have a chance to reflect on this now?
Go Jonah, yeah.
Well, I would just say the other folks from the city, I think would be helpful just for that purpose of just hearing about how they're thinking about the master plan, the chapters that relate to their work. It just maybe would be a way also to help refresh them and us on what's happening and where improvements could happen.
Yeah.
So, like Christie, are we thinking of, or who in particular might we want to prioritize?
And as many as
Who's
Christie,
missing in your head? I'm curious.
Well, the mayor, Christie, Eric hasn't been here in a while. So I don't know who else is there.
We're talking about schools.
Would it be?
I think so.
Yeah, no, I asked just because of the
That's true.
the situation we were just talking about before, about the,
Mhm.
I don't know.
Yeah. I don't know. I think, again, I feel like I should know more about what's going on with the schools, but because my conversations with the new superintendent have been much more from a perspective of like business and economic development. And one of the things we talked about was, really wanting to rebuild a sense of pride in Greenfield and, all of those things. And so I wonder how it would be to have a conversation with her that is less about deep diving into school business and arguments, and much more about where do you see the schools fitting in with this larger ecosystem? And, I'll give an example. We have a new board member at the GBA who owns a bike shop on High Street and is a very big, climate resiliency activist. And so one of his pet projects is that he wants to get more school kids biking again, biking to school, biking to other businesses. And could his shop somehow create a trail system that was sort of rubber stamped by the school? And they know, so it's like there are all of these interventions, and yet the GBA is still sort of, we haven't quite built the main line to the schools. Who would we talk to? Is that a PTO thing? So I sort of see a visit from the superintendent as being more about that kind of thing, the culture for young people in Greenfield. And that was long-winded.
I thought of that when you were saying that. I was thinking of what is there as a segue for students after school or outside of school, and the Safe Routes, as far as going to school, there's a Safe Routes to School program federally, which had been under previous, I'm blanking on her name right now, the previous superintendent, and I would walk.
Christine DeBarge?
For that.
Jordana.
So Jordana was a big advocate for that program, and I remember biking to some event at one of the schools and talking about that. And I was part of a group that would walk kids to school at the Federal Street Elementary School. And so that's a nice intervention. There's also the the idling issue that has come up in the past, and
Mhm.
I haven't been a very active champion, as this committee asked me to do. But one of the places we pointed out was a prime issue was, the schools, because there's so much idling that happens there.
Yeah.
And there's guidelines specific to schools. And also, there's it's just it's education.
Yeah.
You know, so that is something that we could touch base with her, that wouldn't be getting into, you know, the business of curriculum or, you know,
Right,
schools and stuff like that. So
exactly.
that's interesting.
Exactly. Yeah.
Is Christy involved with the Safe Routes to School? I thought
Is she what?
was. Christy, no,
I don't think she ever was.
all right.
Chrissy.
Don't recall.
No.
No.
We are, DPW is.
Is that still going on, Marlo, to some degree?
Yeah, it's offered up every year. I think we, our grants writer Athena, myself, worked with Christine on the last round or 2 rounds ago. We didn't make it, but we definitely communicate with the schools, I should say the 3 groups.
Were the police also involved, or did you guys offer the helmets, or were the police offering helmets?
That was police, but the
That was
the
police,
actual
okay.
Safe Routes to School grant comes through Mass DOT. It's federally funded.
Yeah,
but,
okay.
Mhm.
There's I guess there's a stakeholder group that has to put that whole thing together. But that's how we operate under that grant.
And this is, I'm sorry.
No, but
I was just gonna say, I think this is exactly why the sort of guest speaker series is so valuable. I didn't know about that program, and so through conversations with either business owners or FERCog about bikeability and such, it's wonderful, and especially with something like the police substation coming back to downtown, is there, if we're applying for a grant and we can mention that that presence is there, would that help us get a grant? I don't know, this is so helpful.
Not to shrug things off, but I will speak as someone who it's very difficult to find the time in the day. I know the superintendent, I've had very good dealings with her so far, but also just we're working on a few projects and but I would recommend, I know this guy because he got in touch with me when he was doing his shop. I can't remember his name, but I would recommend going to the school committee meeting and speaking to them and getting it on the agenda, since it is already an established program, and
Mhm.
then starting it that way. Not that it wouldn't be wonderful to talk with the superintendent and everything, but I think that might be a big ask. And we do have Mike on the committee, and he knows the facilities and he knows a lot, but
Yeah.
that part of the issue is just trying to navigate the best way to go about things, given
Definitely.
time constraints. So, and I could be wrong, because they might say, oh, you need to talk to the superintendent. Why didn't you have her come to SGIC?
No, that's a point very well taken, and I think the bikes was just one example, but I think sort of how I would conceptualize a conversation with her or asking for her time, it would be much more big picture of the sort of what kind of environment is Greenfield for students, for young people? Is there enough in the master plan for them? And we talk a lot about kids, and I had a conversation yesterday with a bookstore owner who was like, I want more kids to come in, but I'm not totally sure how to like get them there and what feels safe and what feels good. So not to keep coming at it from a business standpoint, I think that's just what my brain is steeped in. But yeah, I think a conversation with the superintendent much more about like, is Greenfield a culture for young people that is helpful to the schools? Yeah, Carol said no. Yeah. But
would having the chair of the school committee be more feasible, or would it have
Who
someone
is
stand up?
Is it Glenn?
Yeah.
Wow. Maybe that group that,
Could be. Yeah, I think actually, you know, the more you talk about it, I think actually
Yeah.
having the superintendent come and talk very big picture could be beneficial to
Mhm.
both of us, both her and to
Mhm.
us. And then we could go from there to the school
Mhm.
committee or to the other committee or to Glenn or to, you know,
Yeah.
whatever. If we choose to do that.
Yeah.
One other person I thought of, I mean, I confess I'm a transportation nerd. And, you know, was on it's just thinking back to the transportation subcommittee, for the, master plan advisory committee. And Michael Peralt, who's the longtime assistant administrator at the Franklin Regional Transit Authority. And I've been on the advisory committee there for at least 15 years. And there's been, I mean, this was something that was referenced a lot in the master plan about, weekend service and about additional, and a lot of these things have happened.
Mhm.
And I didn't know if having him, I mean, I deal with him all the time, so I didn't know if that would be too narrow or too, wouldn't really have a real purpose. But I just want to throw it out because he was a great resource at that time.
Yeah,
I
he's
remember.
great.
Yeah.
What is his name? I'm sorry.
Michael Peralt, Perrault. He's the assistant administrator at the FRTA. He facilitates or he supports the advisory committee, advisory committee. Not to be confused with the Transit Advisory Board,
Oh my
which is the
God.
decision making. We're just kind of rider, advocates. So,
Okay.
so just throwing that out there. I don't know if that
Yeah.
resonates with it. Other, we have about 10 minutes left on this item. Other.
I just wanted to say, going a little bit outside of folks within the city, I think it would be wonderful to get more insight into FERCog and the things that they are working on that specifically impact Greenfield. That can be many departments, or maybe we invite someone like Jessica Atwood, who's, looking at it big picture, it's Ted Harvey's big picture. But if there are kind of specific things that we're interested in knowing more about, I find myself frequently surprised when I hear that something impacting Greenfield is happening and the GBA didn't know, or we could have been helping in some way.
Did you identify the roles of those two people you just mentioned?
Yes. Jessica is now the
She's the planning director.
director of planning, and Ted Harvey took over her position, which was assistant director of planning.
What his actual title is.
Who's Phoebe Walker then? What's her position?
She's a health
She helps.
stuff. She's only community, I don't know what her actual job title is, but.
I can also add that Eric and I both are pretty tied in with the FERCog.
Yeah.
I just had a meeting 2 weeks ago. We're looking at additional funding and different grants that they want to help the city with. So we work with them a lot. I don't know if Eric and I can be helpful, but if you want to put it on the agenda some evening, we can let you know everything that we know that's happening that involves Greenfield.
That would be great.
And Ted is the senior economic development planner. That seems like a good
Yes.
person to talk to. with those
Yes.
things.
Ted Harvey.
Harvey. He is fantastic. Okay. So that might be of particular value, especially if we do end up going forward with this project. Mhm.
Any other ideas for someone we might want to invite as a guest, or other outreach efforts we might want to think about in addition to those two chapters? Can always come back to these things, but just this is an opportunity to think ahead to the year to come.
We need a benefactor
Yes.
and a state-of-the-art teen center and e-bikes and all
Yes.
kinds of
There you
things.
go.
Came back in the lower ballot, right? They got a new contractor for the e-bikes.
Yes,
Are they gonna open up another round of grants?
that was a lot. That was a lot. I know people directly involved with that all. I don't know how it's going this time.
Yeah.
I can't say
Okay.
super smoothly.
Yeah,
Jeez.
it's unfortunate, man.
It is.
I would love to see that expand up here.
Yeah.
I know. And e-bikes make total sense.
Yeah.
And that's an equity thing too, because it's for everyone.
Smack a couple on Elm Street and Conway Street.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. It'd be amazing.
While we're thinking of this bigger picture connected with the public, the story map idea, the committee had wanted to come back to that this week or this month, so I just wanted to throw that out there. Again, the idea was to use it as a means to, engage as something that's be user friendly.
Is Mary continuing with putting all of this into a story map?
As I recall, she said she would be available to help continue developing this.
What does that mean exactly? Does she need someone else to be working with her?
I
Don't
can
know.
see knowing her that she'll see
She's
it through.
She's
She'll
gonna
see it
do
through.
it, right?
Because she can, and I think it's something that brings her joy, because it's wonderful.
Yep.
I think her concern was just knowing that it would have a place to live and it would be useful, so that she's not doing it for fun.
It said, she suggested it could live on the Sustainable Greenfield homepage
Yeah.
within the website. Not much work to be maintained, only if there are typos or edits. So I guess it was left kind of up in the air at the
I
last
assume it
meeting.
would also be on the planning and development, the Eric's website. Because it's a master planning thing. Or, I don't know, anyway, but
Well, that's what.
once we get
discussing
it, there's definitely a place for it, so
Yeah.
if she's gonna follow through that, I would be thrilled.
So do we want Hannah to contact her just to double check what the status of that is and how that would be put onto those central sites? Or-
Yeah, but I'd like a timeline or some idea, yeah.
Remember when this came up in November, I sort of facetiously suggested that we put it on the giant iPad on the town common. And just so folks could like scroll through it. If that is actually a technical possibility, that would be kind of neat, so there is, you could have somebody go up and like, oh, look, it's the master plan and, play around with it rather than, just being a business directory, which I think is what it's mostly, is, that's
I'm not even
valuable.
sure, I haven't seen it
Yeah.
recently.
But yeah, no, I love the idea of
That's
using
amazing.
that giant shiny object to send messages to people they can't ignore.
Does anyone know if the downstairs, when you walk in the front door, there's that gorgeous,
Yeah,
has that worked?
it works.
It works now? That would be a great place
It
to.
used to work.
that's a good idea.
Did it
Yeah.
stop working at some point? It was working.
For a long time, so I don't go down there
I
very
didn't know
often.
that. Okay.
If it's working, it's so lovely. And someone could actually, outside they can still do that, but given the weather.
Sure.
Inside, they can spend more time with it.
Run to us? Sorry, I didn't notice it first.
Yeah, so Nancy talks about a timeline. Didn't we say early on that first, before we even put it out, it would have to be accepted or approved by the planning board? And didn't you say this would maybe not be before March? George?
The story map, you mean, of the,
Well, the story
Oh,
map
the
is
updated chapters.
because the
is
chapters.
about the updated chapters.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
first
yeah.
you would have to.
Good point. Yep. Yep.
Should I wait?
So George, you're planning to bring it up at the next board meeting, is that accurate?
I think it's gonna be in March. I'll check on what we have for. February.
Okay.
It's your last meeting. Your agenda's probably pretty full.
I'll double check. Eric had
But
sent
it
stuff out.
sounded as if Mary was willing to move forward with the story map before there was a formal approval from the board, from the
I'm
planning
sure she could
board.
work on it, hoping that they will approve it all. But I think we couldn't put it out there until
No,
it
we
was.
can't use it until,
Right,
yeah,
right.
until it's been, that's correct.
That's a good point. Thank you, Francois. Clarifying that. Okay, so we're at time for this agenda item. If we go ahead, we can always, have I'm sure, running, ideas,
Yes.
throughout the year, but
I got
it sounds like
good
there's
ideas.
a lot
I
of
have
stuff so
lots of
far.
ideas.
Okay. Now is the time for public comment.
Oh, I have a question. We looked at question. I have a question pertaining to the kiosk question, which is if the story map ultimately did somehow reside on the Visit Greenfield site, would it be viewable on the kiosk? Is there a file limit, file size limit? Like, should Mary consider that in creating it?
For the kiosk,
Yeah,
I think, yeah, it would be as small as possible, because it would take a long time to load if it's
okay,
potential.
because it would be really interesting if you could sort of like
Yeah.
flip around.
I didn't realize I was suggesting work for Christian, so my apologies.
Christian oversees the website that powers the kiosk that holds the story map that the people look at. Yeah.
So, Christian, I know you're not here to offer public comment, but I did want to invite you if you had anything you want. Okay, thank you. So we have a bit more,
So I have a question.
please.
I have an item that, but I don't know if it's an announcement or a public comment. Where it fits on your agenda. 'Cause but anyway, so do you want me to do it now or do you want me to hold?
Well, typically, public comment is not from committee members.
Okay, okay,
So,
wait,
well,
wait,
it's allowed.
wait.
That's it.
Okay,
So membership is the next item, and the first one is an update about the SGIC vacancy with Mary left. So I did hear back from the mayor's office that there is no one currently in the pipeline for that. And Matt said that, the mayor's open to people coming forward, and also they would do some proactive, effort to find someone to fit, what the purpose of this committee. And we've done this before. I wonder if it'd be helpful to look at, this is one reason I sent out the charter essentially for this committee, because there is in there a 5 areas of recommended member knowledge and skills. And I just wondered if we'd want to reflect on, are there any gaps that we don't have, and might we want to either recommend, contact somebody or recommend somebody to, I guess it would be more we would reach out, because the mayor's office wouldn't necessarily reach out. I don't know. We could discuss that, but, or say it would be good to have someone with this area of expertise. So that's on the second page of the, the charter essentially within the town charter, chapter 186. And there are 5 areas, this project management and public relations, economic, environment, quality of life issues, and food. And one thing I wondered is in the food, it expands knowledge of food systems and ways to build local food security. And I'm just wondering, do we have someone on the committee now who matches that profile as far as an area of expertise?
Worked on a tobacco farm as a kid. That doesn't count, right?
I
So,
care about it and I'm somewhat connected with Just Roots, but I'm not.
Gonna say Meryl at Just Roots would be great if, I don't know if she has the capacity, but
No, she just
Meryl
became the
Latronic.
co-director
I know.
place.
What was that?
Meryl
Latronic.
Electronica just became the co-director of Just Roots.
Now, is she a Greenfield resident?
Yes, she is.
Um, but does everyone agree? We're talking, Carol, about
You remember?
vacancy. There's no one in the mayor's pipeline as far as, so, it's possible we could try to reach out to somebody to encourage them to reach out to, apply to the mayor's office for appointments.
One person I had an idea on the food end would be, I don't know if he, is Kyle Bostrom, who of Bostrom Farms in Greenfield. And he also works at the Greenfield High School and is running is offering a sustainability class or whatever, and runs a sustainability club. And yeah, it's an all organic, it fast, anyway. I don't know if he'd do it, but he knows about food.
I was saying, Carol, that looking at the 5 areas of member knowledge and skills, one that seemed perhaps underrepresented on the committee, from my perspective, was about knowledge of food systems. And And that sounds like, are there other areas that people think need bolstering, or there's a gas, or,
I don't know, quality of life, is there someone,
yeah, that's pretty broad.
it's very broad. Is there
Who's
some,
the urban designer person?
I don't know if she
Oh,
she would
right.
be interested.
Yeah. I think someone like that who's really like, they do it because they're passionate.
would be cool? Yeah,
She might be.
Amazing.
yeah, it would be.
I mean, that's what I'm always reading about, and there's just not enough hours in the day. And there's ways to attack all of this that are low cost, high yielding, effective, and we need to do it all.
Yeah, the question is who, does anybody have thoughts of who's that person or who is into that kind of thing?
I have a thought of one, but I'm wondering if we should maybe have conversations before
Yes.
offering up people's
Yeah, yeah,
names.
yeah.
in a
Oh, I'm not.
meeting. No, I mean, I'm saying, I think we've identified, or at the end, if we have identified areas where we're looking for expertise, if we all go off and talk to people and maybe come back with ideas is a thought.
Sometimes saying names out loud will lead to another name, will lead to
Oh,
another name,
absolutely.
so I'm just thinking of it as in the brainstorming,
I
not
also
saying.
had no idea Kyle Bostrom ran a sustainability club and taught a class at the high school. That's amazing. I'm so glad you said that.
He does. I'm trying to think who else I know in the food world, but, well, I could also reach out to Meryl Electronica and ask her if she has thoughts. So I don't think she would do it, but
And who is that?
Bruce person?
she just became the co-director of Just Roots.
And, oh, good.
There's that community kitchen over on Wells Street. Maybe that's an avenue, folks connected to that.
Stone Soup,
No,
CDC?
yeah, that's that one, where they have.
the witch.
They've got like. a whole
Franklin
store.
County CDC, John Waite.
Oh, that's an interesting
I'm
idea.
not sure who lives in Greenfield from there,
Oh, right.
but it wouldn't,
No.
yeah, they would have to, right?
And,
But that's another idea of just calling John and pick his brain and.
Yeah.
and, both of those people you mentioned, Nancy, you know.
Yeah, I know all these guys, so I'm happy to, yeah, I'll do a little calling and picking brains.
That's-
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yes.
contact the mayor's office. Who is that? Oh, yes, John.
I support this approach, but just want to suggest an alternate approach could also be that we think of what we're working on in the year ahead. And so thinking of someone who perhaps provides a different perspective from the community on economic development from Hannah and Amy could be a helpful addition. And also the task force, the open space task force, we have a couple of people that are a part of that are not members of SGIC that could be good candidates. I'm thinking of Allison Gage, who works at
Could you say that again? I couldn't quite hear you, John.
thinking of Allison Gage, who works at FERCog, that she just moved to Greenfield and joined the open space task force. And so, she would bring more of the natural resources side, but could be a good addition in helping with the open space task force work from a official SGIC position. So just another route that we could go.
I know that Mary had suggested Allison, and someone just before the meeting, before we had quorum, had said they had talked to her, and who's that?
I had reached out to her and she, unfortunately, I understand she's on the open space task force as a non-voting member. And she feels like being on SGIC, there's too much of a conflict of interest and that it wouldn't be to our advantage to have her or her advantage to.
I
But
see.
she's very happy and excited about being on the open space committee.
Yeah, she's.
And she said, if we make any other task force, let her know, and she might be interested in working on it.
Was it, just for clarification, was it that it was a conflict of interest or that it was a time constraint? Because
It was
don't want
more
anyone to
that
think
she
it's-
thought that it might inhibit, there might be a conflict with getting money and that sort of thing.
I can see that in that one.
Just that we're better off, being separate. Yeah.
Didn't we create that task force? Was that a mistake?
So
No
we have,
mistakes, just happy accident.
so we have some ideas and people will be reached out to. Should we move on to the second part of that agenda item, which is seeking an SGIC volunteer for the OSTF,
Hmm.
Open Space Task Force.
Mm.
Which was a subcommittee of, This
Can we
committee.
talk about the idea of thinking about a quality of life person just for 2 seconds?
I'm just trying to watch, sure, I'm trying to watch the time,
Okay.
please.
Well, and Susan just walked in the door, so she might have some ideas. So we're looking for ideas of people who might
Run back
to this committee who could bring sort of a passion about quality of life in Greenfield.
Like you.
And,
Knowledge would be really good.
but anyway, so that's what we were doing and trying to, yeah, is there anybody that we might even, or go talk to and think about? Okay, do you have some ideas? Just want to put it out there.
Okay.
Okay, good, thank you. And welcome.
So, as far as the Open Space Task Force, it was mentioned at the last meeting that, Mary had been on that, and now she's.
And now there's a vacancy, which.
Right, she might continue as a non-voting member if she wants to, but who is on there from this committee now?
The Open Space Task Force.
Yes,
It's
Well, Jonah's the
Who
chair
is the chair?
Me,
Oh, okay.
me and Francoise, yeah.
and
Okay.
Francois is on it, right?
and wasn't there mention of trying to get someone else, Jonah, from this
Yeah, we had
committee?
set it up with 3 of us, with, Mary was the third, and so we were hoping to fill that spot. It's not essential if nobody's interested, but it would be nice.
Okay,
I'm sorry.
And as volunteering, you better.
No, she's not.
No.
So can we just go back for 1 second? Because my brain is still having a little trouble with a feeling from Allison of there being a conflict of interest when it sounds like in reality, it might be easier to be aligned between the Open Space Task Force and SGIC. Like if we're looking for a member of this group to join that, what would keep her from joining this? I'm not understanding.
Oh, sorry, go ahead.
yes, sir.
Well, my understanding, so she's, as a non-voting member, she's sort of, this is this sort of workaround that we've set up for the Open Space Task Force for members of the public to just sort of come and provide input and help us work on projects, but not make decisions, or not vote on things. So she felt like if she was an official member, not because of SGIC, but if she was an official member of the task force, a voting member, which she would become if she joined SGIC, that would be a conflict potentially with her work at FERCog.
Got it. Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
And you were raising your hand when it said about someone joining the
Yeah.
Open
so,
Space Task Force?
I very well may, not be on this committee in the future, and there may be another city councilor. And if that person is who I think might be interested, I could see them wanting to be on the open space
Oh, okay,
task
Yeah.
force.
great.
And
Great.
so.
I'll put my foot in there. I'm passionate about the topic, but I'm not a person who would do any of the tasks that you guys are likely to be doing. I'm more
We don't
like
want you, we don't
someone.
want you then.
You'd be a non-working member.
I think I'm better as like bringing the things to the committee, but not dealing with the details. So,
Yes, thank you.
but if the other person, yeah, anyway, so I'm there if anybody wants that kind of a person. But
Makes
you
sense,
don't
yeah.
need to, but you don't need to say yes.
Okay, moving on. I know we have a couple of members of the public who are here. Should I check again if there's any public input? No, and Demi, I see you're here remotely. I just wanted to, we've gone past public comment agenda item a couple minutes ago. Just wanted to see if you had anything you wanted to offer. Not putting you on the spot, just offering.
No,
Okay.
thanks.
Okay, thank you. So next is announcements. Yes, Nancy.
So I don't know that this is an announcement, but it's sort of an FYI, and it might be for the open space people more than anything else. But everyone, I'm sure, is familiar with the whole dam removal process that's going on with the 2 dams in town. So CRC, Connecticut River Conservancy, is applying for a NOAA grant, National Oceanic and
Atmospheric
Yeah.
Agency, Association,
Okay.
Academy.
Anyway, they are applying. Alex Haro is the consultant They came to Greenfield. They were looking for a support letter from the community. And so I worked with SGG. I worked also with the floodplain forest people with Wisty Rohrabacher, and we put together a letter of support. So the question was, and it's really for the open space people, how much do you want to know about this? You don't. Well, and let me finish. So the CRC or Alex sent me a 3-page fact sheet and said, if anyone's interested, please distribute this. So if anybody would like that, let me know.
Okay, yeah, I've been noticing something weird's happening with the technology, and every once in a while, y'all look up at the screen and nobody on the screen has said anything. I think that just happened again. I don't know. I didn't say anything.
We didn't, nobody said no.
You said
Yeah.
no very loudly.
Yeah, it wasn't me. I don't know what that was.
So let me know if you're interested.
Yes.
Yeah,
Back
I'm
to the
very familiar
acronym?
with it
No,
already,
the-
but we should. Yeah, the open space committee, maybe we should write a support letter even.
It might be too late at this point. And I think that's really why I wanted to bring it up. Because this kind of happened maybe before the open space committee was really all in one place. And so that I wanted to kind of, if you want to be integrated into all, well, then I also brought the Martin's Farm project up at the last open space committee meeting. So that's the fly on the wall, bringing things to you if you want them. That's my role. And so if you're interested in this, I'm happy to share the 3-pager that I have. Sounds like there's some interest.
Yeah, sharing would be great.
Okay.
Carol, you had a comment about acronym?
I actually just had a question because I'm not sure. I think I know the 2 dams, but I know there's been a lot of back and forth with at least one of them. So do you mind just saying where they are?
It's taking out the Meridian Street one.
Okay, yeah, that's the V one.
The V one. And then the one that's more upstream, they call it either a partial removal, and what that means is lowering it.
Up the road from Deerfield Street.
Correct. So Mead Street, Mill Street, excuse me, Mill Street.
By Berkshire Gas.
Correct.
Okay,
Yep,
thank you.
yep. So
Yeah, thinking about it.
protecting the infrastructure that's going across the river there, but lowering so that the fish and everything can go up and over it.
Thank you very much.
Yeah,
Yes,
and it
Marla?
opens, by the way, it opens 60 miles of new stream area. Wow.
Yeah, I
For
was just
eels.
gonna,
In particular.
I was just
Go ahead,
gonna
Rob.
say that's the electric light and power dam. It's on Mill Street. We just did an emergency repair on that, as a matter of fact. But that is the one that's going to be lowered. And then Nancy's absolutely correct. The one below that, the Wiley Russell near Meridian Street, is the one that can come down. So there was some misinformation out there in the press early on this when we had to do the emergency repair. So I just wanted to clarify.
Thank you. And that's why this 3-pager, because a lot of misinformation.
Yeah,
Other
we're
announcements?
actually working with that group, Nancy. So on that.
Oh, good. Thank you.
Other announcements?
Comment about that dam.
Oh.
There was a 10-foot hole in the thing. It's crazy. Like, that's what Marlo told us when we were,
Right, it's
sitting,
huge.
sitting on Ways and Means talking about this, but like, the scale of that is just crazy to me.
A
So-
10-foot hole?
Yeah, in the bottom of the dam.
Underneath
so-
at the bottom of the dam,
Yeah.
not the top.
Yeah, at the bottom, you couldn't see it. For the other repairs that needed to be to the dam, it was discovered by divers when they were putting the engineering and design together. It took 18 cubic yards of cement, if you will, grout with divers to fill the void. And then they TV'd it after, and it was a good fix.
Thrilled to hear it's done.
Yeah.
Easy.
It's been so bad.
I actually have one more question
Please.
about the dam stuff.
Okay.
So I'm going to send the 3-pager to the OSLP people. Do other people on SGIC committee want it?
Sure.
I should just send it to all of you. Okay.
Sure.
And then,
Thank you. Thank you.
yeah, Jonah, you can spread it to the non-SGIC people. Thank you.
And every minute out of the 5:30.
Yep.
So that's it for announcements. So the last agenda item is next meeting and any particular topics for that meeting? It'll be the fourth
Right.
Thursday, right? I'm not sure what
Yeah.
date that is, but I have it here. It's in the agenda, February 27th, 4 o'clock here and via Zoom. And any particular topics people want to flag or?
I can update whatever I talked with UMass about.
So,
Oh, great.
Tell Wayne to give us a good discount.
Oh, it'd be so cool.
yes, Marlo.
It would.
I have a couple of, I'll be able to give some better updates on two projects.
Great.
I was gonna announce tonight that we're moving along with the Swiffer grant, the $2 million recycling grant. We're in the process of rewriting the whole solid waste ordinance. It should be ready hopefully this coming month for council. And the other big announcement is the sludge press or the dewatering project has commenced down at the wastewater treatment plant.
Oh, cool.
So-
How's it going?
So you'll
Good so
share more
far.
about that next month, you're saying?
Yeah, I was thinking
Okay.
a couple of things for me on the agenda. I can, you know me, I can fill in a whole meeting if you'd like.
Great.
Is there more info on the press, Marlo, on what the specifications are of it?
It's already been bid out and everything. It's what we call a screw press, so the only thing that's slowing the project down is there's a wait for switch gear. You're familiar with that, Carol, with the fire station and whatnot, so we are on hold a little bit for electrical parts, but we're hoping by fall we'll be up and running.
Well, I'd love to I'll follow up with you to
Yes.
see what the energy consumption.
He's gonna talk about it at the next meeting, sounds like more fully.
Great.
Yeah.
Excellent. Well, if there are no other topics, want to be respectful of the next group that's using this space so they can get set up. Is there a motion to adjourn?
Second.
Second.
All in favor?
I.
Aye.
Yeah.
Thank you all.
All right.
Take your cookie.